Here's a truth that will shock you. People don't respect you more when you always say yes. They respect you less when you're available for everything. You become valuable for nothing. When you help everyone, you become special to no one. The people who ask for your time constantly don't see you as generous, they see you as convenient. They know you can't set boundaries, so they dump their problems, their boring projects, and their time-consuming requests on you while they focus on activities that actually advance their careers. You think you're being a good teammate, but your colleagues see you as the person who does work they don't want to do. You think you're being helpful to your family, but they've learned that your time has no value because you give it away so freely. The harsh reality is that your inability to say no has trained everyone around you to treat you as less important than the people who protect their time fiercely. There was a man named David who built a technology company from his garage into a $50 million empire in just 8 years. He had everything most people dream of: multiple offices, hundreds of employees, a beautiful home, and recognition in his industry. But by year 9, David was sitting in bankruptcy court, watching everything he had worked for slip away. What destroyed his empire wasn't a market crash, wasn't competition, wasn't even a bad product. David lost everything because he never learned the most powerful word in business and in life, the word no. David's downfall began with a simple pattern. Every time someone approached him with an idea, a request, or an opportunity, he said yes. A client wanted a custom feature that would take months to develop. Yes. An employee needed him to personally handle a task they could do themselves. Yes. An investor suggested expanding into 3 new markets simultaneously. Yes. A vendor pitched him an expensive software solution he didn't really need. Yes. His brother-in-law wanted him to invest in a restaurant venture. Yes. Each individual yes seemed reasonable, even generous. David thought he was being a good leader, a supportive friend, a smart businessman, but what he didn't realize was that every yes was stealing from his core business, his family time, his health, and his ability to focus on what really mattered. While his competitors were saying no to distractions and doubling down on their strengths, David was scattered across dozens of projects, none of which received his full attention. The tragedy wasn't just financial. David's marriage suffered because he couldn't say no to late-night meetings. His health declined because he couldn't say no to stress-inducing commitments. His children barely knew him because he couldn't say no to weekend work requests. His most talented employees left because he couldn't say no to micromanaging every detail of their work. His company culture deteriorated because he couldn't say no to hiring people who weren't the right fit. Now contrast David's story with another entrepreneur I know named Rachel. She started her consulting firm the same year David went bankrupt. Rachel had a simple rule. For every opportunity that came her way, she would sleep on it for 24 hours before responding. During that time, she would ask herself 3 questions. Does this align with my core mission? Will this make me better at what I do best? Can I do this excellently without sacrificing my existing commitments? Oftentimes we put a load because we don't fully realize what our sacrifices are. Most opportunities failed this simple test. Rachel said no to joint ventures that would have diluted her focus. She said no to clients who wanted services outside her expertise. She said no to speaking engagements that didn't advance her business goals. She said no to social events that consumed time without adding value. She even said no to some profitable projects because they would have required her to hire people before she was ready to manage them properly. The results. While David was filing for bankruptcy, Rachel was celebrating her most profitable year yet. Her client base was smaller than David's had been, but each relationship was deeper and more valuable. Her team was smaller, but every person was perfectly aligned with her mission. Her calendar had white space for strategic thinking and family time. Her bank account was growing consistently because she wasn't bleeding money on unnecessary expenses in failed ventures. But here's what's most interesting about Rachel's success. It didn't come from any special talent or lucky break. Rachel wasn't smarter than David, wasn't more educated, didn't have better connections or more startup capital. The only difference was that Rachel had learned the power of selective commitment, while David remained trapped in the illusion that more opportunities always meant more success. This fundamental misunderstanding destroys more careers, more businesses, and more lives than any external force ever could. We live in a culture that glorifies busyness. That equates activity with progress. That makes us feel guilty for turning down requests and invitations. We've been conditioned to believe that successful people say yes to everything, when the exact opposite is true. The most successful people in every field have one thing in common. They are masters of strategic rejection. Warren Buffett has said no to thousands of investment opportunities to focus on the few that generated his billions. Steve Jobs saved Apple not by adding features, but by eliminating them. Oprah Winfrey built her empire by staying focused on her core strengths rather than chasing every media opportunity that came her way. Yet most of us operate like David did, saying yes out of fear, guilt, or the misguided belief that we can do everything well. We say yes to committee positions we don't have time for. We say yes to social obligations that drain our energy. We say yes to projects that don't utilize our strengths. We say yes to requests that interrupt our most important work. We say yes to investments of time and money that generate no meaningful return. Every yes you give automatically creates a no somewhere else in your life. When you say yes to that unnecessary meeting, you're saying no to strategic planning time. When you say yes to that mediocre opportunity, you're saying no to the excellent one that might come tomorrow. When you say yes to everyone else's priorities, you're saying no to your own dreams and goals. The tragedy is that most people never realize the true cost of their yeses until it's too late. They wonder why they're always busy, but never seem to make real progress. They wonder why they feel overwhelmed despite working harder than ever. They wonder why their most important goals remain unreached year after year. The answer is usually simple. They never learn to protect their time, energy, and attention by saying no to the good so they could say yes to the great. This isn't about becoming selfish or unhelpful. This is about understanding that your ability to contribute meaningfully to the world depends entirely on your ability to focus your limited resources on your highest value activities. You cannot be everything to everyone without being nothing special to anyone. Understanding why we struggle with saying no requires us to examine the psychological forces that drive our behavior. From the moment we're born, we're wired to seek approval and avoid rejection. Our survival as infants literally depends on keeping our caregivers happy. This biological programming served us well for thousands of years. But in today's world of endless opportunities and constant requests, it has become our greatest liability. The first trap is what psychologists call the approval addiction. We say yes not because we want to do something, but because we want to be liked. We fear that saying no will make people think we're selfish, lazy, or unhelpful. This fear runs so deep that we'll sacrifice our own goals, health, and happiness just to maintain the illusion that we're good people. But here's the harsh truth. People who constantly seek approval never earn real respect. They become known as pushovers, not as valuable contributors. Consider how children are raised in most families and schools. When a child says no to a request from an adult, what happens? They're often labeled as defiant, difficult, or disrespectful. When they say yes and comply, they're praised as good children. This conditioning creates adults who automatically associate saying yes with being good and saying no with being bad. We carry this programming into our professional and personal lives, where it becomes a massive disadvantage. The workplace amplifies this problem. Employees who say yes to every request are initially seen as team players and hard workers. But over time, they become the dumping ground for every unwanted task, every unrealistic deadline, every project nobody else wants to handle. Meanwhile, employees who set clear boundaries and say no strategically are often promoted faster because they're focused on high-impact activities that actually move the business forward. Another powerful force is the scarcity mindset, the belief that opportunities are rare and must be seized immediately. This creates what I call opportunity hoarding. People accept mediocre opportunities because they fear better ones won't come along. They join committees they don't care about because they might make useful connections. They take on clients who aren't ideal because they need the revenue. They attend events they don't enjoy because they might miss something important. This scarcity thinking is completely backwards. The most successful people understand that opportunities are abundant, but time and energy are scarce. They know that saying yes to a mediocre opportunity often prevents them from being available for an excellent one. They've learned that selective engagement actually creates more and better opportunities because it allows them to build a reputation for excellence in specific areas. Your brain also works against you through what scientists call the availability heuristic. You can easily remember times when saying no led to negative consequences, a misconnection, a disappointed friend, a lost opportunity. But you rarely calculate the hidden costs of saying yes, the stress, the opportunity costs, the dilution of your efforts. Your brain remembers the immediate pain of rejection, but ignores the long-term pain of overcommitment. There's also a neurochemical component to this pattern. When someone asks for your help, your brain releases small amounts of dopamine, the feel-good chemical. Saying yes gives you an immediate hit of satisfaction and importance. You feel needed, valuable, generous. But this short-term reward comes with a long-term cost that your brain doesn't immediately recognize. The stress, resentment, and overwhelm build up slowly, while the pleasure of saying yes is immediate and obvious. Social media has made this problem exponentially worse. Every platform is designed to generate more yeses, yes to friend requests from people you barely know, yes to event invitations you don't want to attend, yes to causes you don't deeply care about, yes to content that adds no value to your life. The constant stream of requests and opportunities creates decision fatigue, making it even harder to make strategic choices about where to invest your time and attention. Cultural expectations also play a major role. In many societies, being busy is seen as a status symbol. People compete to see who can juggle the most commitments, who can survive on the least sleep, who can maintain the most packed calendar. This creates peer pressure to say yes to more and more activities, even when they don't align with your values or goals. The final psychological trap is the sunk cost fallacy applied to commitments. Once you've said yes to something, you feel obligated to continue, even when circumstances change or you realize it was a mistake. You stay on committees that waste your time because you've already invested months. You continue relationships that drain your energy because you've already put years into them. You persist with projects that aren't working because you've already invested resources. Breaking free from these psychological patterns requires conscious effort and practice. You must recognize that your automatic impulse to say yes is often working against your long-term interests. You must understand that disappointing some people in the short term is necessary for serving the right people excellently in the long term. Now that you understand why your brain pushes you toward yes, let's talk about how the most successful people make decisions. They don't rely on gut feelings or social pressure. They use systematic approaches that protect their time while maintaining relationships. The first tool is what I call the value filter. Before responding to any request, ask yourself 3 simple questions. Does this move me toward my most important goals? Does this use my unique strengths and talents? Will I be proud of how I spent this time 6 months from now? If you can't answer yes to at least 2 of these questions, the answer should be no. Consider Michael, a marketing director who transformed his career using this system. Before learning to say no strategically, Michael was drowning in requests, training sessions he didn't need, committees that accomplished nothing, social events that added no value. His real work suffered because he spent 60% of his time on activities that didn't advance his career or help his team succeed. Once he started using the value filter, everything changed. He declined 15 requests for every one he accepted. His boss noticed his improved performance and promoted him within 8 months. The second strategy is the 80/20 principle applied to opportunities. In any given month, roughly 20% of the requests you receive will generate 80% of your meaningful results. Your job is to identify that crucial 20% and politely decline the rest. This requires you to get comfortable with disappointing people who want your time for low-value activities. Most people fear that saying no will damage relationships, but the opposite is true. When you say yes to everything, you spread yourself so thin that you can't deliver excellence to anyone. When you say no strategically, you can give your full attention and best work to the commitments that matter. People respect you more when you're selective about your commitments, because they know that when you say yes, you mean it. The art lies in how you say no. Here are 3 scripts that maintain relationships while protecting your time. For professional requests, I appreciate you thinking of me for this. I'm focused on my core responsibilities right now and can't give this the attention it deserves. For social invitations, thank you for including me. I have some family commitments that evening that I need to honor. For volunteer opportunities, this sounds like a worthwhile cause. I'm not able to take on additional commitments right now, but I wish you success with the project. Notice that these responses don't over-explain or apologize extensively. They're brief, honest, and final. When you give lengthy explanations, people see them as opportunities to negotiate or overcome your objections. When you apologize profusely, you signal that your decision isn't firm. Timing is crucial. The faster you say no, the easier it is for everyone involved. When someone makes a request, resist the urge to say, "Let me think about it," unless you genuinely need information to make the decision. Usually, you know within 30 seconds whether something aligns with your priorities. Delaying your response creates false hope and makes the eventual no more difficult. Advanced practitioners use what I call preemptive no's. They communicate their boundaries before requests are made. A consultant might tell new clients, "I only take calls between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. on weekdays." A manager might announce, "I'm blocking my calendar from 8 to 10 a.m. daily for strategic work and won't be available for meetings during that time." This prevents many inappropriate requests from ever being made. The most powerful no is the one you never have to say because you've designed your life around your priorities. When your calendar reflects your values, when your commitments align with your goals, when your environment supports your success, you naturally attract the right opportunities and repel the wrong ones. This is where true freedom lies, not in reactive decision-making, but in proactive life design that makes the right choices automatic. When you master the art of strategic no saying, every area of your life begins to transform. The changes often surprise people because they expect saying no to create limitations, when it actually creates unprecedented freedom and success. Let's start with your career. Jennifer was a talented accountant stuck in middle management for 7 years. She said yes to every project, every training program, every committee assignment that came her way. Her managers saw her as dependable, but never considered her for leadership roles. Why? Because she was always busy with tactical work and never had time for strategic thinking or relationship building with senior executives. Once Jennifer learned to decline low-value requests, she freed up 15 hours per week. She used this time to develop expertise in financial forecasting, a skill her company desperately needed. She said no to 3 committees, but yes to leading one high-visibility project that showcased her strategic thinking. Within 18 months, she was promoted to director with a 40% salary increase. Her selective focus had done more for her career than 7 years of saying yes to everything. Your relationships improve dramatically when you become selective about your commitments. Maria used to attend every social event, birthday party and networking mixer she was invited to. She was known by many people, but close to none. Her conversations were always superficial because she was constantly rushing to the next obligation. When she started saying no to events that didn't align with her interests or goals, something remarkable happened. She had time for deeper conversations with the people who mattered most to her. Her friendships became more meaningful. Her dating life improved because she could invest proper time in getting to know quality partners instead of spreading herself across dozens of casual acquaintances. The health benefits are immediate and substantial. When you stop overcommitting, your stress levels drop significantly. You sleep better because you're not lying awake thinking about all the obligations you've accepted. You have time for exercise and proper meals instead of grabbing fast food between appointments. Your immune system strengthens because chronic stress suppresses immune function. Many people find that their anxiety and depression symptoms improve simply from reducing their commitment load to a manageable level financially. Selective commitment creates wealth in multiple ways. First, you stop spending money on activities you don't truly value, networking events that produce no results, gym memberships you never use, subscriptions to services you rarely access. Second, you have time to focus on income-generating activities instead of being distracted by low-value, busy work. Third, you make better financial decisions because you're not constantly stressed and rushed. A financial advisor I know increased his income by 60% in 2 years simply by saying no to small clients so he could focus on serving wealthy families who generated 10 times more revenue per hour of his time. Creativity flourishes when you protect your mental energy. Artists, writers, and innovators know that their best work comes from focused attention, not scattered efforts. When you say no to mental clutter, unnecessary meetings, trivial social media, low-quality entertainment, you create space for your mind to process, synthesize, and create. Some of history's greatest achievements came from people who were willing to say no to good opportunities so they could pursue great ones. The compound effect is perhaps the most powerful aspect of selective commitment. Small, consistent no's accumulate into massive life changes over time. Saying no to one unnecessary meeting per week gives you 50 hours per year. Saying no to obligations that drain your energy gives you the vitality to pursue your most important goals. Saying no to mediocre opportunities positions you to recognize and seize exceptional ones. Most people underestimate how much their current commitments are costing them. They don't realize that every yes creates an invisible no to something else. When you become intentional about your no's, you reclaim the power to design a life that truly reflects your values and ambitions. Knowledge without action is worthless. You can understand every principle I've shared today, but if you don't implement these strategies systematically, nothing in your life will change. Let me tell you about Amanda, a software engineer whose complete transformation illustrates exactly how to move from understanding to mastery. 18 months ago, Amanda was drowning. She worked 55 hours a week at her main job, freelanced on weekends to pay off student loans, volunteered at 2 different organizations, served on her homeowners association board, and tried to maintain relationships with family and friends. She was exhausted, stressed, and making no real progress toward her dream of starting her own tech company, despite being constantly busy. She felt like she was running in place. The turning point came when Amanda implemented what I call the 24-hour rule. This simple practice became the foundation of her transformation. Whenever anyone made a request of her time, she would say, "Let me check my calendar and get back to you tomorrow." This single phrase bought her the space she needed to make strategic decisions instead of reactive ones during those 24 hours. Amanda would evaluate each request using a decision framework she developed. She would ask herself 4 questions. Does this align with my goal of starting a business? Will this develop skills I need for entrepreneurship? Does this person respect my time and boundaries? Can I do this excellently without sacrificing my health or primary objectives? If the answer to 3 or more questions was no, she would decline the request. The first month was the hardest. Amanda said no to her friend's wedding planning committee, declined a lucrative but time-consuming freelance project, and resigned from one of her volunteer positions. She felt guilty and worried that people would think less of her. But something interesting happened. The people who truly mattered supported her decisions, while those who complained about her boundaries revealed themselves as energy vampires. She was better off without. By month 3, Amanda had freed up 20 hours per week. Instead of filling this time with new commitments, she protected it fiercely. She used 10 hours to develop her business plan and build a prototype for her software idea. She used 5 hours for skill development, taking online courses in business development and marketing. She used 3 hours for exercise and meal preparation, which improved her energy levels dramatically. She reserved 2 hours for deep relationships with family and close friends. The compound effect became visible by month 6. Amanda's prototype caught the attention of a potential investor she met through strategic networking. Not the scattered, unfocused networking she used to do, but targeted relationship building with people in her industry. Her improved health gave her the stamina to work on her business idea early in the morning before her day job. Her deeper relationships provided emotional support and valuable feedback on her business concept. By month 12, Amanda had secured seed funding and was ready to leave her corporate job. But here's the most important part of her story. She didn't achieve this by adding more to her life. She achieved it by systematically removing everything that didn't serve her primary objective. Every no she said created space for the activities that generated exponential returns. Amanda's weekly boundary review became crucial to maintaining her progress. Every Sunday evening, she would spend 30 minutes evaluating the previous week. Which commitments had generated real value? Which activities had drained her energy without meaningful results? What requests had she accepted that she should have declined? This regular assessment helped her continuously refine her decision-making process. She also developed what she called no-saying scripts for different situations, for work requests outside her job description. I'm focused on delivering excellence in my current projects and can't take on additional responsibilities right now. For social invitations that didn't align with her goals, I appreciate the invitation, but I have some personal projects I'm committed to this weekend. For family obligations that were guilt-based rather than value-based. I love spending time with the family, but I need to honor some commitments I've made to myself right now. The most challenging aspect wasn't saying no to obvious time wasters. It was saying no to good opportunities that simply weren't the best opportunities. Amanda turned down a promotion at her corporate job because it would have required more hours and delayed her entrepreneurial timeline. She declined speaking at conferences because preparation would have consumed time she needed for product development. She said no to potential romantic relationships that weren't aligned with her life vision during this crucial building phase. 18 months later, Amanda's company had grown to 8 employees and was generating 7-figure revenue. But the business success wasn't the most remarkable transformation. It was the person she had become. She was calmer, more confident, and more focused than ever before. She had learned that success isn't about doing more things. It's about doing the right things exceptionally well. Your implementation must begin immediately, not tomorrow or next week, right now. Take out your calendar and identify 3 commitments that don't align with your most important goals. Cancel them this week. When people ask for your time over the next 7 days, use the 24-hour rule before responding. Start practicing the no-saying scripts in low-stakes situations, so you're prepared for important decisions. Remember that every master of selective commitment started exactly where you are right now, overwhelmed by options and uncertain about how to prioritize. The difference between those who transform their lives and those who remain stuck isn't talent or luck. It's the willingness to disappoint some people in the short term to serve their highest purpose in the long term. Your time is finite. Your energy is limited. Your attention is precious. These are not problems to solve. They are constraints that force you to choose what matters most. The power to say no is the power to shape your destiny. Every no you say to something that doesn't matter is a yes to something that does. Every boundary you set creates space for your dreams to flourish. Every strategic refusal brings you closer to the life you actually want to live. The choice is yours. You can continue saying yes to everything and remain exactly where you are, or you can start saying no strategically and begin the transformation today. The world needs what you have to offer, but only if you protect your ability to offer it at your highest level. Make the choice, take the action, transform your life through the simple but profound power of saying no.